Monsieur le commissaire
European Commissioner Mr. Dimitris Avramopoulos,
Monsieur les ministres, cher Bernard Cazeneuve et
Ministers
Mesdames, Messieurs,
Cazeneuve and Harlem Désir, parliamentarians, elected officials, Madam the Prefect, ladies and gentlemen, Europe,
la France,
France, all of us
avons devant nous
have
une immense
ahead of us
responsabilité.
a great responsibility.
L'actualité
The latest tragic events, unbearable events, with all these deaths at the gates of Europe, on European land, remind us of this continually. And the movement, the visit I have made this morning with Bernard Cazeneuve and Harlem Désir, the ministers, with Bernard Cazeneuve, who has regularly visited this site, and I'd like to pay tribute to his effective action, and with two European commissioners, including the Vice President of the Commission and the Commissioner in charge of this question, which shows Europe's commitment. The other joint visit, which is of a symbolical but nevertheless concrete nature, underscores powerfully and directly the reality of the issue of the challenge of the migrants to the EU and each member state. In the world, wars, oppression, but also misery, states that are breaking up, the humanitarian crisis, global warming, climate change are pushing peoples to leave their country and to be exploited by human traffickers who exploit human misery, and to risk everything, to risk their lives. We have seen more witnesses of this morning to come to Europe. In 6 months, 340,000 illegal entrants have been made into the Schengen space, 3 times more than last year, which was already an exceptional year in this regard. So we must tell the truth. This crisis will take a long time to resolve itself, and it will be a challenge to resolve it. That's why we need to act, and we need to act methodically and refuse all forms of demagogy. This migratory crisis is a trial for our society. The town of Calais, and I would like to pay tribute to the commitment of the elected officials of Calais and the inhabitants of Calais who are facing this challenge and who are doing so in Calais with a great sense of responsibility. The county of Pas-de-Calais, the region, illustrates this very well. This port town, which is a transport hub, a Franco-British transport hub, has become one of the main axes of irregular migration into Europe. Most of the migrants in Calais come up against a dead end, and this has been extended. The number of migrants who are waiting for an opportunity to cross the channel has increased in less than 1 year, from 400 to 3,500 persons a day. And the consequences are very visible. Saturation of the ability to receive them, sordid exploitation, with all the problems that it poses, problems of violence, of despair on the part of the human beings concerned. This morning, all 5 of us, with elected officials, visited the moorland near the entrance to the tunnel. And what we can see there, I know this territory very well. I used to be the Minister of the Interior. And it's a call to action. This afternoon, Bernard Cazeneuve and Harlem Désir and I will be meeting the NGOs and non-profit organizations who are providing help, and we will pay tribute to the healthcare officials, the law enforcement officials, the civil protection people who are doing their job in line with the Republican values. Lampedusa and Vintimille in Italy, Kos in Greece, Macedonia, Serbia, have also experienced a massive influx of migrants. The whole of Europe is concerned, is involved in this crisis, which is of an exceptional gravity, and we must mobilize our resources. There must be close cooperation between the European Commission and member states, and with all countries that are candidates for joining the EU. And this is one of the reasons why Dimitri and Mr. Timmermans are here today. Europe are countries that have decided to share things together in order to move forward. We cannot leave the frontline countries like Italy and Greece on their own. They cannot handle the flow of migrants on their own. We need to find European, sustainable European solutions, and we're working on this together. We must find the solutions in compliance with our values and our basic principles of humanity, responsibility, and firmness. Humanity, because each migrant, whether he or she wishes to ask for asylum or not, must be treated in a dignified way and must be able to live in decent conditions. Our responsibility, the responsibility of all of us, is to make sure that the right to apply for asylum, which is a basic right which Europe enshrines and which France respects, must be respected everywhere. And we cannot use barbed wire. We cannot welcome people who are persecuted in their homeland or tortured in their homeland, must be welcomed in Europe. And we must be firm, because we must distinguish. There's a key distinction to be made here: to preserve the right to asylum, of course, to protect the right to asylum, but we must also make it clear to our citizens there is the right to asylum on the one hand, and on the other hand there is illicit migration, which has to be fought. Humanity, responsibility, and firmness. Those are the basic principles, the joint principles set out by the German Chancellor and the President of the French Republic. Last week, they identified the guidelines of our action on the basis of the work done by the Ministers of the Interior, Thomas de Maizière in Germany and Bernard Cazeneuve in France. And I am sure that the European Commission favors these guidelines. We need, first of all, to provide the migrants with good conditions for receiving them. The countries of these hotspots where the migrants arrive for the first time. We need to identify those who are applying for asylum and those who are economic migrants who are entering Europe illegally. Illegal migrants must be accompanied back to their homeland in a dignified, human way, showing respect for the law, but also with a necessary firmness. The decision was taken in June by the European Council, and it must be implemented quickly by action. The European Commission is providing help to the countries of first entry, and France is prepared to assist those countries of first entry by sending experienced staff from our state agencies, and we have discussed it this morning. These countries must also adapt their laws to protect our external borders more effectively. Then we must share more equitably the burden of welcoming those who have applied for asylum. We have defined a framework. France, like Germany, are attached to this framework, but too many European countries are not willing to take on their share of responsibility. We need to define a European migration policy with a common policy on political asylum, swift processing and harmonization of the processing and of the services provided. We must draw up a list of safe countries, sure countries, the countries who cannot, we must discourage people who pervert certain procedures. The European Commission will be making proposals in this regard, and the European Commission can count on the support of France. Finally, we must think about the deployment of European border guards, particularly in crisis points. The Schengen Agreement, may I remind you, is not just the abolition of internal borders. Schengen is also the strengthening of our external borders. And this is a prerequisite for survival. The European Council discussed this in June 2014, and we must progress. And finally, and above all, we must solve the migratory crisis by tackling the root causes of the migration, by finding solutions with the countries from which the migrants come and the transit countries. For example, in Niger, we must set up a center for preventing the departure of the populations and for ways and means of helping them to get back to their homeland. Similarly, we must help those countries to keep better control over their external borders and to fight more effectively against networks of human traffickers. We need the support of everybody, international organizations, migratory organizations, the High Commission for Refugees, the UN Commission for Refugees, and of course Europe, by mobilizing the appropriate funding. We must set up a development policy which is active and effective with the required financial resources in order to support the economies of the regions concerned, to offer to the young people of those countries better prospects than the terrible ones they have today. And I expect a lot from the summit meeting in Valletta next November, which I hope will come up with concrete solutions on all these issues and show the solidarity that should exist between Europe and Africa, which has so many resources and so many talents. And France is determined to contribute to this. Humanity, responsibility, firmness. These values, these principles also guide the action of the French government in all French territories. We have adopted a law on political asylum, and this law is based on a compromise, a compromise between the National Assembly, the lower house, and the upper house, the Senate. In Calais, we have set up an exceptionally effective framework which has processed 1,600 applications for asylum compared with 400 in 2013. We provide living conditions, good living conditions outside the town of Calais, notably for women and children. In June, we adopted a plan which allows us to strengthen our system for receiving migrants. We have set up 11,000 extra places for migrants and more funding as well. And we will continue this effort for 112 million euros will be spent by 2016. The Minister of the Interior is doing everything to fight against networks of human traffickers. And we are now seeing the results. Since the beginning of the year, we have dismantled, thanks to the remarkable work of the law enforcement organizations, 177 networks, including 19 networks in Calais. In the Calais area. This represents 800 smugglers, human traffickers, which is much more than the whole of the last year. And we have statistics now show that this is the best way to fight against disinformation. The number of people who have been taken away from Calais have been over 1,200 people have been banned from the Calais area. Finally, we are bringing specific solutions to the problems of the town of Calais, which legitimately, the inhabitants of which are legitimately expecting these solutions. I've told the Senator Mayor, Natasha Bouchard of Calais, that we will not abandon the inhabitants of Calais who have been suffering from this crisis for many years now. The economy of the town has been adversely affected. We will be meeting the local authorities again this afternoon with the Member of Parliament, Yann Capet, to discuss these questions. And the state, the French government will support the town. We have increased resources for humanitarian assistance to meet the increase. Over 2 years, we have invested 20 million euros in helping the town of Calais. We have set up a daycare center, which we visited this morning, the Jules Ferry Center, which provides migrants with support for their procedures. We also provide healthcare facilities and housing facilities. And I would like to pay tribute to those who are supporting the migrants in this regard. We have also improved the quality of the camp which has been set up in the moorland near Calais, because the insalubrious conditions are completely unacceptable. And I would like to thank the European institutions who have financed 2/3 of the budget of the Jules Ferry Center. And the Vice President of the Commission will detail this later. I would like to pay tribute to our British partners. We must be demanding with Great Britain, but they have mobilized 35 million euros to secure the Eurotunnel site and the town of Calais, but also to provide the kind of reception which people deserve, which people have a right to. So we must act on a European level. We must act with our direct partners, including Great Britain, with Italy, France. In the south, has Italy as its partner. So it would be absurd not to cooperate, and we cannot let migrants pass without helping, without providing any cooperation. We cannot let migrants go through. It would be irresponsible to let them. It would have obviously a negative impact on our relations with our neighbors and friends. We cannot say that there are no borders between Britain and France. And the consequences would be terrible if we announced that there are no borders between France and Great Britain. We would see the negative consequences of this very quickly. So we will be applying the rules firmly and to fight with great determination against human trafficking. 1,300 policemen and gendarmes have been deployed to protect the people of Calais and to control our external borders. So the message we are sending to the countries which are of emigration, the Franco-British border is now under control. Coming to Calais today is to head for a dead end. The security of the port, the security of the tunnel have been reinforced considerably, and this work will be extended next Monday. Eurotunnel, the French railways with the state will be meeting the high expectations of people in terms of security. And by the end of October, a whole system will have been put in place. So as you can see, we have an overall strategy now. The state is there, is present to solve this crisis, this migratory crisis in Calais, and Europe is present at its side. We have asked and obtained from Germany and with Germany and the UK an extraordinary meeting of the ministers of the interior of the 28 member states of the EU in September, which will bring together ministers of justice and the ministers of the interior. And we hope this will allow us to find effective and sustainable solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, managing migratory issues, let's be lucid, and I say so with great seriousness, will play a big role on the future of Europe. Europe must rise to this channel, to this challenge, and France is aware of the fact that it's not just an economic issue, it also reflects a certain vision of the world, of certain values. It's a challenge. We have many challenges to face, but we have already shown in the Greek crisis that when Europe comes together, it can do great things. And today, if we show solidarity with each other, protecting people, and by making sure that people comply with the law, and yesterday and in the future we will will assume our responsibilities to provide the answers without any demagogy, by telling the truth to our fellow citizens, and by showing determination for compliance with our principles and our courses of action. Thank you very much.